Well, hello everyone, and welcome to the October 2024 edition of the St. Louis Java Users Group. Next slide. For those who don't know, the St. Louis Java Users Group is an informal group. Our first meeting was in May of 1997. Attendance is free. We don't have any formal membership list. Normally, we try to meet on the second Thursday of every month, except December. There's just too many things going on over the holidays for us to organize a meeting in December. And you can join us for food and social at 6 p.m. And we try to get the meeting started at 6:30 here as best we can. I'd like to introduce the other members of the St. Louis Java Users Group Steering Committee. So from left to right here, we have Zach Klein, Ted Doyle, Robert Levitt, Wei Chi Gao, I don't see him tonight, and Bruce Oswald, that's me running the announcements. So you can reach all of us on the steering committee if you send an email to that address at the bottom of your screen, and that's javasigsc@googlegroups.com. Next slide. The Java user group would not be possible without the support of our sponsors, so I'd like to thank Object Computing. They've provided the training room, and they've bailed us out many, many times. They've been with us since 1997, since the founding of the group, all the way, and so thanks again to OCI. Tech Systems is a recruiter. They were here a few months ago, and if you're looking for a Java position or you have a position that you would like to fill, look up Tech Systems and they may be able to find something for you. At the end of the meeting, we'll be raffling 2 JetBrains licenses, and if you're watching the recording, I'm sorry, you must be present to win. If you're just watching the recording, you're not going to be able to win the prize or anything like that. And we'll do that at the end of the meeting. So if you're online, just stay online after we end the recording and we'll do the raffle then. Manning has also sponsored ebooks for us. Enterprise Mobility, they sent a recruiter here and they sponsored the food here a while back. And then the food tonight has been sponsored here by Oracle. So thanks a lot for Oracle. Manning has a discount code for us, good for 40% off any product. And the discount code is just JUG13 when you go through the checkout. And here's a new one. I just got contacted from the people who are running API World 2024. So if you would like a free, that is free ticket to attend online API World 2024, that will be November 12th through the 14th. And so the way to get that code is you just go back to the meetup group where you signed up to come to the meeting, and there's a discussion board there. And I have posted the link in the discussion board. So you can just click that link in the discussion board, and the API World people are tracking how many people use that link. And the more people that use the link, the more happy they are with us. So yeah, go ahead and just sign up, and it's a nice online conference there. Upcoming presentations next month, we'll have Billy Carando come in and talk about to Java 23 and beyond. Billy is one of the organizers of our sister JUG in Kansas City, the Kansas City Java Users Group. He also is the one of the organizers for the Kansas City Developer Conference, and I believe he's an Oracle employee as well. And so he will be here next month to talk about Java. So if you'd like to keep up with our presentation schedule, that's easy to do. Just go to our meetup site, that's meetup.com/gatewayjug for updates to the presentation schedule and location. And yes, we are recording our meetings. That's easy to do. I've just been uploading them to my YouTube channel, and there it is right there on your screen, youtube.com @ and my name. And so if you'd like to give a presentation, or if you'd like to become a sponsor of the group, you can email us on the steering committee at that same Google Groups address that I gave before. That's javasigsc@googlegroups.com. Okay, next slide. So at this point, I think we're ready for our presenter here. Enough about me. Let's talk about next-gen testing tools here for Java. Why don't you take it away here?
All right, excellent. Well, thank you very much. and appreciate it. Oh, by the way, like I don't know if you know this, Bruce, or everyone else here. Like when you're doing, I just learned this maybe about, I don't know, maybe not even a year ago. But if you ever need here, let me go to like a GitHub repository here. Like the next gen testing tools that I'm about to, or here's a what's new Java. But if you ever need like a QR code, I don't know if you knew this, but if you click on the triple dots on your browser and go to cast, save, and share on at least Chrome, right over here, there's a create QR code. So you don't have to go through all these little fancy things. So now you can grab that and put it right on the slide. There you go. Boom.
Thank you.
I can't do a mic drop with this, but yeah, you can. Or it'd be a weird mic drop, right? Like, what the hell, man? What's going on here? All right. Well, excellent. So, yeah, this has a repository. If you know about my presentations, kind of like how I roll now. And I have a link here that you could try this out at any time. And here's the repo for that. So if you go to any one of my repos, generally what I usually like to do is provide a button in here that says open in Gitpod, so you can run this yourself. Typically, so Gitpod, if you've not seen Gitpod, Gitpod allows you to, like, once you click on that, I've already signed up for it because I'm a big Gitpod fan, but here it is. And you could just do like a continue enter, and you get a full development environment up online, which is really great. And if you fly a lot, that's even better, because I don't know if you ever done like Maven compile on an airplane. Maven compile and you didn't download the dependencies, or like you're doing a Docker pull something colon latest. You're like, sorry everyone, I'm about to ruin your movies, right? So whenever you have something like that. So most of my presentations are like this. You could just jump right over to it. This just probably has a reload button, but everything is runnable here. Yeah, check it out. And also the other thing about a lot of my presentations, just FYI, is that I usually do like an MIT license. So for my presentations, you can take it, manipulate it, do a brown bag, take whatever I have and do a brown bag with that. So all there for you. All right, cool. So just some quick announcements here. And I'm getting help with this travel here for No Fluff Just Stuff. This is for Seattle. Sorry about that. But I don't know what the St. Louis one is, if there's going to be a No Fluff Just Stuff. Probably take a look at the calendar. We have one usually here every year at what is it called? Maryland Heights? At the Marriott. What's that? Okay, yeah. So make sure you attend the meeting so that way you get a ticket to it. Chesterfield? Okay.
Yeah.
That was a Maryland Heights, but okay. I'm not familiar with the area. But also, if this building is still standing, which I hope it is, there's a hurricane right now in Clearwater, Florida, or it just passed by. I think everything is set, and I'm sure they built this hotel with protection against hurricanes and things like that. But there are a few December events that you might be interested in. One of them is DevOps Vision, where we have a lot of talks on DevOps and the like. And there's also like an ML Ops section as well, which I'll be presenting on as well here at Clearwater, December 2nd through 4th. ArchConf will be there 9th through 12th. This is going to be more obviously architecture-based stuff, messaging systems, etc. So they'll be there at ArchConf as well. One of the other things that I'd like to talk about, if you want to talk to me afterwards about Java, I'm doing stuff with Azul as well. So if your company has alternate JVMs in mind and you'd like to talk to me more about that, I am more than happy to talk to you on that. So the other thing that I just wanted to mention, just on a more personal level, is just about junior developers. And one of the things about junior developers is this notion of like, hey, we don't need junior developers anymore because AI is going to get rid of your job. What's that?
Don't bet on it.
Yeah, and that's the thing, right? I think junior developers are going to be important and will always be important. This right here is a graph from my DDD talk, which is actually from this book, which is an excellent book on learning domain-driven design by Vlad Kononov. But I really like this graph a lot. And this one just talks about subdomains in domain-driven design and to identify the subdomains within your company. And obviously for any kind of like, large corporation, you have like a core subdomain, which is, this is why your company brings in money, right? This is the purpose for your class. Not for your class, but for your company. And then you have generic and supporting. Generic subdomains are important subdivisions within your company. So generic would be things that you usually get off-the-shelf software to support that. So a generic subdomain would be accounting, right? They would use an accounting software, manage your payables and receivables, and that would be that side of that. But I think this blue one here is the nice important one here as well. This one's supporting, and for technical domains that have a supporting subdomain, this is where junior developers come in. This is where they write CRUD apps. This is where they write apps that support the main purpose here, like all your high skill developers would be in the core subdomains, but the supporting is essential as well, because the supporting helps that particular core. And that's the purpose why I bring up this slide. This is where the junior developers come to fit in, because the junior developers learn a lot about your company, and that's the thing. If you need to hire someone to start to work on your core, which is your most difficult stuff, where are you going to get it? Right? Are you going to go outside in the hopes that you get someone that possibly knows your domain? And that's the thing for us developers. We have developers, but developers have to know typically some other kind of domain, right? I think a lot of your jobs is not only just, hey, I know Java and I know development and I know this. You know something else, right? You're probably working for a shipping company or a medical company or some other aspect. And so you know both of those. That's important here. So just something that I just wanted to mention here is that AI is amazing, but very much like autonomous vehicles, your code infrastructure needs guidance. And many of the answers provided by LLMs are great, but still require doubt. One of the other things just to pay attention to as well, I see a lot of news articles about lawyers coming in and saying, "Hey, where did you get that?" Right? Where'd you get that information? And we owned it, and so we're now going to have a lawsuit against that. So I think we'll see that a little bit more now. Lawyers are just an amazing group of people, I guess. They could do that. But why am I bringing this up? Just wanted to mention here that, bring back the junior developers. Junior developers are absolutely important. And if I could help in any way, I do offer training, consulting services, and things like that. So my intent, though, is like for any kind of coaching or training that AI is important of all this. It's never going to go away, but it shouldn't be a replacement for junior developers. So if you want to talk more about that, I'm going to be around until they kick us out. So, all right. Anyway, so just some items of the things that I cover. I don't know everything, but I'm just sticking to a few things here. So if you're interested in any one of these, then just let me know. Okay. All right. So I'll just skip that part. Let's go on to the show then. All right. So next gen testing, I'm gonna hit the ground running with probably the most interesting one right now, which is JQwik. How many of you use JQwik now? All right, I hear the crickets here. All right, let's talk about what JQwik is. So JQwik is property-based testing. And I've learned this from Scala and I've learned this from Haskell. And we actually have a library of it now within the Java space, and it's called JQwik. There's another one as well, but JQwik does a really good job of it. So it is property-based testing, which is different than like a unit test. Let's take a look over here. What is a property? A property doesn't have a direct assignment to a value, right? If I did a method called add and I bring in two numbers, and let's say I plug in 2 and 1, and the method's called add, obviously I'll have a direct assignment to that value. I wish to assert that 2 plus 1 is equal to 3. That's my assertion, right? I'm making a definite value assertion on there. But what if I did a particular rule on that? Like instead of 2 plus 1 is equal to 3, how about whatever numbers that I have, and let's say of all the positive numbers in the universe, if I add them together, they must be greater than the smallest number, right? There's a property that's associated with it, and that's the thing that I'm targeting. And these rules are called properties. Again, it's different from an assertion, is that we are testing a principle or a characteristic of your particular software, and that's going to be the interesting thing on that. So what kind of properties can we come up with? So reversing a string. Well, if you think about that one. So if I have a string called foo and I want to test the property that reversing works, what would be the property for that? Maybe the first character should be equal to the last one, like as you reverse it, there's 1. But there's also another one, a really clever trick that you could do to test that.
How about if I reverse it twice, do I get the original?
Nice, boom, yeah. If you reverse it twice, you get the original back. It has to be, right? That's a property that must hold for that reversing a string. There you get it, right? So it's not, again, like looking for that value and saying, oh, this is equal to this. This is about looking for that property and see if that property holds. Concatenating 2 lists. Anybody want to think about that one? What would be a property on that one?
The output list is equal to the sum of the input list.
Yeah, or something like that, right? Yeah. So given well, there could be a list that's empty, so you have to think about that one. But there should be, at minimum, the length of like the largest string or something like that. Mm-hmm. So absolutely. I'll field this one, building a custom map. This one can be done based on some other map, right? If you want to use Java util hash map, for example, that's a working map with a working implementation per a specification. So you just want to match yours with theirs, and that would be a property that you can look for. All right, cool. How about an absolute value of a number? That's an easy one. Nice softball question. What would be a property there? Go.
The absolute value of the absolute value is the absolute value.
I think so. Maybe. I guess that's true, yeah. But there's another one even simpler than that.
The absolute value of numbers non-negative.
Right. It's always, the property here is that no matter what you run, there should never be a negative number whatsoever. There's your property right there. Nice and easy one there. Here's FizzBuzz. Anybody know about FizzBuzz? This is from the C4 blog. I don't like the way they worded it, but FizzBuzz test is an interview question designed to help filter out 99.5% of programming job candidates. And I don't like this part, actually, who can't seem to program their way out of a wet paper bag. I think it's a little bit too cruel there. The text of the programming assignment is as follows. Write a program that prints the numbers from 1 to 100, period. That's going to be the important part here. But for multiples of 3, print fizz instead of the number. For multiples of 5, print buzz. And for numbers that are both multiples of 3 and 5, print fizz buzz. Now, someone at a fairly large company in San Francisco, I was talking about this, and someone who does the interview question said it's more like 60%, not necessarily, what the 0.5% that could pass this. But I think it's kind of hard. If you've done FizzBuzz, you already know the answer. You're like, oh yeah, I know what that is. But I think it's hard, and one of the reasons why I think this is hard is this. And I've done some like TDD training on this where they read this. And here's the thing: we read instructions very well, and we read things from left and right. And this is where I think it's cruel. Write a program that prints the numbers from 1 to 100. What do? They write a for loop, right? For 1 through 100. But what's the thing about a for loop? It's not an expression, so you don't get anything out of it. And this is where you seal your doom, right? You write a for loop, and you write something in there, and you can't validate anything getting out of that. And that's where I think the cruelty is. So if you haven't touched a programming language in like 5 years or so, this kind of minutia you could escape from. The big part about this is, the second statement and the third statement here are the important ones, not iterating from 1 to 100. cares about that? We could just plug that one in later. But this is the hard stuff here, and this is the stuff that you should test first. But regardless of that little story there, for multiples of 3, print fizz instead of the number. For multiples of 5, print buzz. And for multiples that are both fizz, 3 and 5, then it'll be fizz buzz on that one. So interesting question here on like, what will we do for the property of fizz buzz? Well, one of the things that we could do for that is you can filter out the numbers and filter out the inputs. So you could do on this one, all numbers that are divisible by 3 should start with fizz, and all divisible by 5 should end with buzz. Right? You see how that one works? And now you just have all the numbers, and you could just like watch a large number of numbers at it and see if your property holds. So if you're thinking then, hey, is this randomization? Am I just like feeding my methods just with random input values? Not necessarily. This is going to be, and here's the theme for a lot of these that I'm going to be talking about today. I like to call them jerks, because that's what they're doing. They're sending in inputs. They're just out to ruin your life, and that's a good thing here, right? So the inputs that are nefarious: 0, 1, -1, like as far as numbers, and max value, min value, right? Just to detect those overflows. Those are some good ones right there. Yeah. Huh? No, I think, let's see. That's a good question. I think you would have to flip that on if there's like an object reference to it. But as far as a primitive, there wouldn't be a null in that case. Right. So JQwik is a library that you just plug into your Maven or Gradle, and this will bring in your property-based testing, supports JUnit 5, reporting, arbitrary data creation that you can create yourself, and it does something else called result shrinking as well. And I'll show you what that is. All right, let's take a look at JQwik over here. All right, here we go. I'm going to open this up, and I'll magnify as well, so that way we could see everything. So what I have here is the following. So this is actually one of, when I do TDD training, I talk about Caesar shift. Anybody know about Caesar shift? Caesar shift is, right, we got one here. So Caesar shift is if I say hello to you, you and I agree on a number, right? Yeah, yeah. So if we have 5 between us, and so Ted and I will just say 5, right? And I go off over here, and I want to send hello over to Ted. Well, it's H, and then I shift by 5. I, J, K, L, M, right? So M would be the first letter as part of the encoding. Then E would be F, G, H, I, J, right? And so that would be the next letter. And the next letter, you would just add, that number. Now on the decoding side, what Ted will have to do is subtract to return to that particular word. I like this one generally, like when I teach test-driven development, just because everyone gets comfortable in the beginning. They're like, oh, this is lame. Why are we doing this? And it's just like, I don't want to do this. And but then it gets hard, really hard. Why? Because like, what do we do if the letter is X and the shift is 5? What do we do? Like, where are we going to go? And so now everyone's pondering like, oh man, yeah. So yeah, circular and modular, right? Yeah, good. Takes a while to come up with that really, really quick. So yeah, and in fact, you'll see it right over here. There's a modulo. Anyway, I think a lot of my best presentations are rooted in my failures. Those are the best ones, where I just tell you where things had gone horribly wrong. But it didn't go horribly wrong, but it was interesting in that the class went fine and everyone, came with it. Then I was looking at property-based testing. And I was thinking, I'm wondering if the class was absolutely successful. They weren't able to see this, but I ran a property-based test on the Caesar shift. And here's the, by the way, here's the TDD code on this. So we went through the process. Anybody know zombies when it comes to TDD testing? Everyone heard of zombies? Never have. Zombies is if you wanted to do tester and development, you start off, or you do zombies, which is start out with a 0 case. Cool, right? Then start with the 1 case, then the many case, then a boundary case, then take a look at your interface or refactor, do the exceptions, and then finally simplify from that. Zombies, right? So like right over here is an example of Caesar shift starting with a 0 case, right? Empty string, 0, right? What should I get from that? Well, that one should just be an empty string, right? Because I'm just shifting an empty string. Then I start to add little elements, right? TDD is all about like, and so I find a value in TDD, and I'll always find a value with TDD. There are those that love the property-based testing that say, I don't ever want to use TDD ever again in this form. I'd rather just do everything as a property-based test. And I disagree with that, and that's okay. And unless you have, some sort of rule within your workplace, go about it however you would like. All right. But anyways, I did all this, and everything worked out great, or at least I thought. Then what I did is I did this. I brought the Caesar shift property out. And so here's the property-based testing on this. And very much like the reversing a string is that if I encode something and decode it again, I should end up with the same word all over again. And so that's what this is. And here's what JQwik will do. You, instead of doing an at test, you say at property right up on top. So here's that part right here. At property. For all alpha characters, that's going to bring in that string. And then for all integers that we have, going to bring in a shift. Okay? So again, it's not random, but they'll throw in a few edge cases here and there. I'm going to do a print here just so that way you can see the values that are coming in. And here's my insertion. For everything that I encode, I am going to decode that afterwards. And I just want to make sure that I get the same string back again, right, than the original. And that's the property that I'm going to run. So here we go. Let's go and run that. And let's see what we get here. Maybe. There it is. So as we see down over here, we see TCJ -169, right? And we get some other crazy ones in here. How about this one? Look at the size of that string with 220. Here's this one. That was a pretty spicy one there. Okay. How about look at that one right here? Right? So you're just slamming that method in there and, testing everything, right? All these particular inputs, because what you're doing is you're trying to cite those particular properties. Where you'll recognize this one. How about this one? Anyone recognize this number here?
Power 31.
Yeah, to the power of 31, max value for integer. Yep, you got it. Let's see. Yeah, anyway, but took a look at those strings, those shifts there. And in the end here, right, here are all these tests here. I just wrote 1,000 tests, right? And that's what happens here. I did 1,000 tries. I checked it 1,000 times. The generation is randomized. And if something goes wrong and I want to capture the seed right down here, I could do so as well. So that way I could run the test against that seed and I get the same inputs over and over again. So it is a little bit randomized, but randomized within the intent of like trying to find these edge cases and really sync your code. And that's the idea for this particular framework. So think about your code. Think about, take a look at a method when you go back to work tomorrow and just like, oh, weird. This just looks like a property in here. Can I slam this with 1,000 test cases? And that's what it's for. Now, let me come in over here, and I'm going to destroy my code here. Let's do the following. By the way, check out what I'm going to do here. I'm going to come in here, and I'm going to do the following. Help me remember that. No, you know what? Let me choose something else. Let me change that one back, because otherwise I won't remember that. Let's say I'll do this. That way I could remember it better. Because sometimes I destroy my code for like demos and then I don't remember what it was. And I can't get back to it. All right. So let's say I just changed this, right? I got rid of this plus alpha size. So I want you to take a look here what I'm doing here. I'm I'm kind of destroying my code by changing something a little here, and I would just want to see if things fail, right? And keep that in mind, and we're going to show something else here momentarily. Yeah. Okay, I'm gonna go with this one here, but we could let's take a look though. Let's see if I destroyed it enough. So let me come back to the property over here, and let's go to run this one, and away we go. Boom. All right. So it did destroy it, and it destroyed it after. No, I don't think it did it after one, but it did a number of calls one, so maybe it did find it. But the point that I want to show here, it did fail, but take a look here at how this looks. I have an original sample, so this is what destroyed it. My test was destroyed with these inputs. Let's pronounce this one together. Like Chewbacca. And then argument 1, -3, 1, 2, 2. Okay? That destroyed my code. But what PBD testing will do, property-based testing will do, is it will shrink these inputs. So there's another engine in here that will take this information and give me the most, viable, but shrink this into something easy for me to understand and to use. And that's what this did. Okay? And what it found is, oh, yeah, you could destroy this with a and -1. Okay? Try that, and you'll have a unit test. So I like to put these in play against one another, right? Your TDD tests are good because you get to go a step at a time, understand the problem, and successfully do one test, then move to another, then move to another, move to another. And of course, this is like what? And I'll find holes in your code for you. Yeah.
How does it decide how to shrink? What is the process it's using?
Sometimes it's division, cut the number in half, see if you still have a failed test, and go on both sides, see, the binary split. And, I know that one for numbers, but they have different strategies as to, how to split. And yeah, simple failure. Sometimes I think for strings, what they'll do for strings is just, slice it in half, see if the failure is still there, slice it in half again, see if the failure is there, and just keep going until it offers you something that you could work with. Which could be, yeah. And you can plug in typically your own strategies for how you want to shrink the input values. Yeah. And I think JQwik maybe have that. I haven't gone down that path, but I think that's a way you could go about that.
This isn't like a replacement for unit testing.
I don't think so. Yeah. My strong feeling is those unit tests are great because, again, you get to go at your own pace. You write a unit test, fix that, do another unit test, fix that. This will just find a hole afterwards. This is like putting a roof on and running the water hose on top, see if there are any leaks coming out afterwards, right?
If you had those two methods, did nothing, just return code or decode, return the character, it would pass, even though it didn't actually do it.
Say that one again.
Look, you're basically testing two. You're encoding and decoding together.
Right. Oh yeah.
One of them didn't work.
Yeah, I'll do it. Right. Yeah. Right. So yeah, let me repeat that. So the question was, the benefit about that is not only pummeling these methods with just random characters, but if you take a look at this property right over here, we are testing two methods together on this. So there is an issue, but it's either on the encode or the decode. And what I could do with this is capture these elements and see if it's the encode that's causing the problem or the decode that's causing the problem, or maybe the combination of both. Yeah. Go ahead. Correct. Right. Correct. Yep. And Bruce?
I think what he's getting at is you could make that Caesar shift decode method and the Caesar shift encode method always return an empty string every time. And it would satisfy your property.
Or just return the character or the string that you're putting in. You look at your method, encode and decode, which is relatively testy.
Yep.
And you took out all the actual logic. And in this case, you return the string word, or you return the character C, or the string word.
Yeah, like right here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Instead of doing the actual code, just return word.
Oh, right.
And up in coding, you do the same thing. So essentially, whatever you put in there, you're going back. And it's always just
Right.
not actually in code.
Okay. Okay.
Right.
Oh, you still get the same thing. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Interesting. Okay. Very cool. Go
I
ahead.
think you need, in addition to this test quick, you need some old-fashioned unit tests
Mm-hmm.
to make sure that if you got a shifter through, that A goes to D and C goes around to B.
Right.
or
Which is that layer, kind of like what we were talking about. Like this JQwik could just be like, yeah, sure, I'm not doing anything, and these are going to be the same. Whereas a unit test is that verification to make sure that you're doing something substantial in order to supply. Yeah.
Formalized version of fuzz testing.
Yeah.
Here, and we use it. This is going to find things that you didn't think of.
Yes.
Yes. Yeah, I thought of that stuff. This would be like, why did that crash? That number, there's something special about that number, that case, and then you're like, oh.
Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah. Yeah.
And this is going to catch that.
Right. Yep.
So could you bring back up the test?
Oh yeah. Let's go and do that then. And here's the property. Okay.
Yeah, so, okay, so you got like for all.
Right. Get me all alpha characters. I decided just to go with alpha. Oh, that's an interesting. Yeah. Here, let's. Yeah. That's correct. Yeah. For all is just an annotation. That just means give me stuff. Yeah. Right. Because string characters is like there's that. And the thing that I don't write, I just wanted to do alpha characters for Caesar shift because I have no idea like what number that is, right? And so I decided to constrain it. Yeah.
Would your test pass if you went back and fixed that error that you introduced?
Oh yeah, I already did. Mm-hmm. Yep.
And so it just fails on garbage characters, even though it shifts them.
Well, I wouldn't call them garbage characters. I mean, these are characters people use in their daily language, but yeah. Yeah, I could do that. But this one here, I'm just constraining the inputs. So that way I know what I'm testing for. And that could be like an invariant that I know beforehand. Like I'm only supporting, and I'm telling you, I'm just supporting alpha characters.
So if you remove for all, what is it?
Yeah, so that would be the thing. That's the annotation that would let JQwik know to plug in characters for you. So here, that's a good question. I don't know what would happen. Oh yeah. Mm-hmm. I think this would just be a string, and I'm not. Yeah, I don't know. I'm going to answer I don't know on that. Yeah, cannot resolve a parameter, and it doesn't know what to do with that arg0. Mm-hmm. Yeah, no problem. That was an excellent question because now I know. So yeah, excellent. All right, very cool. Yeah, question, Bruce.
Could you restrict it to only positive integers?
Yes.
Shift or something like that? Would that be a different annotation?
Yep. Mm-hmm. I think so. There it is. Just give me all positives.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Or non-negative, so you could have zero.
Ooh, I don't know. Yeah, maybe. I'm sure there is. And then I think you create your own annotation.
There it is.
Yeah, non-negative. Yeah. I don't know what non-leaked is, but there's non-null if you have a reference and things like that. Yeah.
And it's not going to put in a null string. In other words, a null value for the string.
I think you would have to explicitly annotate that if I'm not mistaken on here. Yeah, I don't know. To be determined on there. We'll take a look at the documentation on there. Okay. And I guess my excuse is I try not to deal with nulls, and so I actually deal with it. But yeah, I get it. Because that's a valid input that could happen. Yeah. Yep. Yep. In the documentation?
Yeah, well, yeah, I'm wondering, it looks like it does work. So I'm wondering if you use like meta annotation for combine different, what it does. This is using upper charts and lower charts.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You could probably create your own that would combine instead of going to use from particular.
Yeah. And it's in German. Annotation is though. Yeah. All right. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, I think so. Oh yeah. So if we come in over here, yeah, here it is. Since you said composite annotation, which I agree with, this is both lower cars and upper cars here. So if that, ooh, that's a good question. So like if I did, you know, like negative in here, we can see what that one is. No, that's just what it is. Just the annotations in here. I wonder if I go to constraints right over here, here they are. So here are some of the things that you can have. Alpha characters, big range, byte range, int range, negative, non-blank, positive, scale, which I think is probably just kind of like a min-max probably. String length, size, upper cars, white space. There it is with null. So if you have an object reference and you actually want nulls as part of it, you annotate it with that. Yeah. Kind of has sneaking suspicion that was in there somewhere, but yeah, great question on that. Cool. All right. All right. So here, let me make sure. Let me make sure if I do this presentation again that everything still works. Let me get rid of that negative, because then I'll be presenting. I'll be like, what the heck's going on? Let me go and run that. There we go. All right. Everything good. Uh-oh. What was there a red there? Oh, failing handling. All right. I'll just make a mental note there.
Check the code. Check the actual code. I thought you commented out.
I put it
Did you put it back
back. Yeah, I did put it back in. All right. I'll make a little mental note. I'm not going to hold things up. All right. There it goes. Yeah.
Okay.
A weird little thing came by. All right. So remember I went in and changed like the plus or whatever, or you know, what if I had something that just goes in there and it's like a little meanie that just goes, I'm going to change the plus to a minus. Let's see what happens when I do that. Well, that's what a mutation testing is going to be here. This is called PiTest. What it is a mutation testing framework. And what this is going to do is it's going to go into your source code, change pluses to minuses, modulos with divisions, change strings to empty strings, and just run havoc within your code. Someone was mentioning like chaos engineering. I got kind of a little bit of that, just introduce some chaos. And if your tests fail, right? Because if you go in there and change, you know, a few things in here, and if your tests fail, then good job, right? So this time it's looking for failures because you have some little agent going in there and changing things up. But if your tests pass, this is kind of like almost to your question, you know, if your tests pass, then hey, that mutation lives, and therefore something is wrong, right? So kind of get that? Something going in there and changing your code. Run it frequently against a code that has been changed. I always wonder this. I'm a big fan of TDD. I do still, and this week was one of them. Someone had mentioned, yeah, I just do test after the fact, not test-driven development, where you do the test before. And they were okay with it. I always wondered like what this would do. Like for those, I suspect, and again, just opinion on my own here, that folks who don't do test-driven development, where they do a test first, but they do test after the fact, and again, my opinion, is that they usually test the happy path, like for that one test. And they don't get really, really aggressive on some of the other tests that they should be testing. So I think for, you know, something that is testing after the fact, I'm always curious, maybe I should go find someone's code where they do testing after the fact and see if doing mutations is able to catch on that. So here's an example here, right? Let's change some of these in here, and I'm here to destroy your code, and let's see what happens. So you just bring that one in, and what you'll do is just do a mutation coverage for Maven. I think there's some instructions there for Gradle, but let's take a look at it and see how that one works out. All right, so I'm gonna come in here to the terminal, which by the way, I'd love an IntelliJ. You get a kick out of it. And let's do mutation coverage here. And here's what I'm going to be running here. Okay. So I'm going to run that mutation coverage. Away we go. Here's the PiTest. Right. And so it's sending something in there to go, I want to go destroy your code. Right. And that was it. One of the things about that, let me do this here. Let's go to the file pom.xml. And let's take a look where I did that here. Oh, let's see, plugin. Where is that plugin? All right, well, I do have a plugin here, just don't see it here. But yeah, here's a PiTest here. So it's just bringing in that particular plugin here. And so I brought that one in. And when I take a look at the code, wherever that is, oh, there it is. Stand by. We're going to bring that in. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to do cd target, and let's do pit reports 2024. It is 10. This is the first one in October that I've done. So this is the run that I just performed right now, and index HTML. Now, I just did this with a Caesar shift, and here's the report here. So I'm going to take a look here, Caesar shift, Java, and take a look here. Ooh, neat, beautiful. Look at that. Okay. So what it did, let me highlight this, and you get to see over here, encode, negated a conditional, killed, right? So what this one did is on this line 12, what it decided to do is negate this conditional in here. And my unit test was able to capture that. So this is just a validation that the test that you wrote works as expected, okay? It's kind of like a quality inspection of your unit test. There's the way I think about it, okay? Let's see what else it did here on that number 3. Negated a conditional, because I have 2 of them, so it negated both sides, and replaced the return value with an empty string just to see what would happen, and that one got killed as well. Again, these mutations, you want them killed based on your unit tests, right? And that's the goal here. Any questions on that one? I know this one's kind of weird usually. Bruce, yeah.
Situations like it might mutate dead code or something like that, and it's going to pass because it.
What do you mean like by dead code? Like there shouldn't be dead code anyway.
Like code that just is never executed no matter what.
Well, I think I can extend on that a little bit. Is there a way to narrow the scope of where it's going to go?
Yes. So you could say, well, to a point, you could.
Coverage is important. But I
Right.
think that there is a detriment as you approach 100% because you're obsessing over exception handling. That
Yes.
Probably never happened. And I don't want to waste my time there because
Right.
it's not actually helpful to the bottom line.
Right. So you could specify the classes, but I don't think you could go very fine grained on that. But I agree with you. Right. Okay.
Right, because the fact that I've got like this text message in an exception block that like you change the comment that's actually being reported when an error happens.
Mhm.
Like, I don't care about that. Please don't do that.
Right. So I know you can write your own,
Yeah.
and I think you could probably filter the ones that the things that you do care about. So if you don't want things like that where it's going to trigger an exception or anything like that.
It should not go. This is brilliant. This is
Yeah.
really cool.
Yep. Bruce, you had some follow up?
You could have situations like maybe it mutated by taking out I added 0, the constant 0 to the number.
Okay.
And it's still gonna pass. Or maybe I worded with true
Yeah.
or something like that. I took out the or true because true is all.
Right.
And it's still gonna pass.
Yeah. I guess my argument.
By like dead stuff.
Yeah, my argument would be there should be a static analysis that should get rid of that kind of
Yeah.
stuff anyway, because you shouldn't do an or true anyway. Yeah.
Well, what happens is you get the copy and pasting stuff and moving things around. It's like, this stuff.
Yeah, I would say static analysis first, get rid of that weird stuff,
Yeah.
and then validate the stuff that you already have. Yeah. Yep. All right, groovy. Oh, one of the other things, I know I added this, and it was relatively new, and that was, just want to show an example of an arbitrary in this case here. So this one's brand new because I did get a question about, okay, how do I create my own stuff? And here's an example here. A lot going on here. Let me just say the answer is called flat map. And it's something called an arbitrary for, and I'm talking about JQwik, so I'm just doing a quick rewind here. But here's an example of where I have a student. Here's what a student looks like. It's just a record with a long ID, student ID, which is a value object. I have a first name and I have a last name, right? Can you, or can you, can I, can you create a arbitrary instead of integers and things like that? Get me custom objects and I want to run against that. And that's what this is right over here. So just an example for that. So like the student ID, I'm doing an arbitrary, give me numbers between 0 and 999. And then I'm going to do a flat map in here where I get those numbers, and I'm going to do integers again. So I'm doing it twice over here. And I'm doing a flat map combination. And that's going to be probably the weird thing if you want to create your own stuff, is knowing how to compose things together using a flat map combination. They also have some helpers to help you with that as well. But notice here that first is going to be some sort of number between 0 and 999. Last is going to be some number between 0 and 999. And at the end here, I'm going to have a string format that will format these, and that will be my student ID that I wish to create. And the arbitrary here is create for me a student ID from this, okay? So how do I create a student? Well, let me, call this create student ID, flat map, which is get me that student ID. Here's an arbitrary for alpha strings, get that. I'll call it my first name. And then here's for last name. I'll compose all those and make a student out of it. Here's this one. I kind of hard coding a name here. Like let's say, let's choose Ted, for example. That if I want to create a student named Ted, here's a create student, and I'll map that student, but what I'll do is I'll capture the ID and the student ID that was generated, but if I want to hard code a name, I could do so. And right over here is a create students with a percentage named Steve or Bob or Ted or whatever it is that you like, Carol, whatever. And so right over here, this one is just a fancy way to give me a frequency of some random number, say like 30% of students should be equal to Steve, and then 70% should just be any other kind of student from here. So you can get really, really fancy and kind of like steer that random generation however you'd like. So I just want to show you that. That one's called arbitraries. That's part of the property-based testing as well. Okay? Did I get too nerdy on you there? Did I lose you at flat map? Or just like, what the hell did you just do?
I remember arbitrary is a concept that comes out of quick check and
Yep, and then went to Scala and then came here to JQwik.
Yeah,
that's the lineage. Yeah. Yeah, all right. Excellent stuff. All right. So Zachary and I were at like VenCatConf last week, and we were in a session with Martin, I forgot his last name, Martinelli. And we're talking about CQRS and hexagonal architecture. I like the hexagonal architecture. Hexagonal architecture is great for like complex software systems where the domain is very, very, very complicated. And it's just a hexagonal it's a architectural design on how to develop things. Also called the ports and adapters architecture, which I think many like to just say ports and adapters architecture. They don't even use the hexagonal. But the idea for this, and the reason I'm bringing this one up, is hexagonal architecture is you have your domain in here, which is your services, how your business operates, and your models. Purely that. Nothing in this core here should have any reference to how the database works. Shouldn't have the word MySQL in it. Should not have the word Postgres or Oracle or anything like that. Shouldn't have the word Kafka in it or anything like that. It's just pure business. Then you have your application, which would be your like Spring Boot or your Quarkus or whatever you like. And then your infrastructure, which, you know, would bind the infrastructure, which would be your database stuff, your UI stuff, and you would bind that to a port. These ports in here are just interfaces. I think we've been kind of designing this, whether you use this architecture or not, when you write to a database or when you have an interface that writes to a database, which is persist student, for example, right? It's generally an interface that is not database specific on this case here, right? It'll just be persist student where you would just give it an object. How that's interpreted is left to the adapter, but it's an outside concern of what's inside of that domain. So interfaces are, you know, could be a data access object. If you're in Spring, they call it a repository, but that's what the interface represents. So how do you test against that? Well, the thing about database testing is I've always gotten hurt by that. I've always wanted to do unit testing. I've always wanted to be a good developer, or at least I thought. But then when it came to databases, just crushing defeat day after day of trying to validate against a database. How many of you have used a JUnit? Well, I'll gauge how old you are by that question, right? I see some gray hair. There's one way to determine how old you are, but then there's also like, hey, let me ask you what JUnit is. And you're like, oh, I remember that. Actually, JUnit is still around, but JUnit was like, let's encode data as XML and then load the database, verify it, and then remove it, right? And it was all XML based. I liked it. I think it was impressive for early 2000s. But that was a lot of work, right? And so those database tests just, you know, became abandoned and you started to remove those. And so now we have test containers. I think many of you know about test containers. I just want to bring that up just in case you haven't. So test containers, let's use Docker to load up an actual database. And here's the other thing as well. I could determine how old you are with this question as well. How many of you used Hypersonic or H2 databases to represent as a proxy the real database, but it was never an exact science, right? There was just something a little bit off. Well, this one is, because we can have containerization, and I think we could do this before because our computers are a lot faster now, our containers and things like that makes this possible. So we're here now, and that is, why don't I just bring in a real Postgres database, make it ephemeral, bring it up, test whatever I need, tear it down. Let's use an actual database. And even what's better on this is let's use the exact version number, right? If your code is saying, I want to use this version of Postgres, well, have that bring up the actual version of that Postgres that I want to test against. And that's the thing about this, that I could test for that. And back to the hexagonal architecture there, now I could just wire things in with my actual domain code along with the database that I'm testing against. And this can make things like end-to-end tests even easier for that. You can do it for UI testing as well, just to do your end-to-end testing. Lots of great stuff that you could do with a test container. In the end, what you're doing here is you're just using a Docker container to, you know, represent that production database that you're inevitably going to test against. There is a London versus Chicago style TDD, and like, why did I end up down this path? So the Chicago style would be the Kent Beck style, called the Chicago, or Detroit style. Sometimes it's called the Detroit style. London would be the Nat Price. What's that?
Are you talking about pizza?
No, Chicago style. Yeah, if I talked about pizza, there would be obviously someone from New Jersey wanting some representation in this. So the Chicago style, now I'm hungry. The Chicago style TDD, state-based behavior. London is the mockest one, which is interaction testing, mocking, and end-to-end TD. This one comes from Nat Price from this book. It's a great book, different alternative on testing and tester and development. You know, his way to go about it. So it's an interesting read. But there was just one statement in there that just like hit me. And that was, don't unit test what you don't own. It's like, oh, Right, don't test that. Don't test the data. Someone else wrote the database. That's their problem. You just want to see how it interacts with your code. And so that's where all this comes in, right? I get to have, my architecture test that against a real database and on and on. So all you need for this is a Docker. You can have this to work with Podman. I read that up on a Stack Overflow, and they were able to make that work. So however you want to go about it. Generally, what you do is you'll bring in the bill of materials for test containers into your build tool. And once there, you can bring in test containers itself, which is the engine to bring things in. But then what you would need to do, here's Gradle. Then what you would need to do is bind that to your testing framework. I generally use JUnit 5 or JUnit Jupyter for that. Bring that in and bring that in for Spot. The other thing that I don't have a slide here for is that you would need to do something like this, which is, let me go to the dependencies here. Oh, here's PiTest, an answer to your question on the configuration. This one is, it's not really what you were talking about with the exceptions, but you could say, look for these classes. I don't know how deep you could go, so you could take a look further into there. But let's see over here. I am looking for, here's test containers. This one I'm bringing in a Kafka container right in here. This one's just a regular PostgreSQL. I'll talk about that one here a little bit later, but yeah, somewhere on here, I think I have a PostgreSQL version somewhere in here, but I do have a PostgreSQL test container bound somewhere in here. But what you'll need to, did I? Post, if I could spell, yeah, it's somewhere in here. There's that one. But then I have, oh, there it is. Yep, thank you very much. So there's that. So not only do you bring the test container in, but you also bring in the specific library. So in this case, org test containers, PostgreSQL, okay? So let's do a demo here just to show you how that looks. And here's a test container. Let me just do this one. So in this one here, I'm just creating a data access object or repository, however you want to call it. The setup is this. One annotation up top, at test containers, which says, I want to run this using test containers. Okay, and that's the test here. Next is the container itself. So what I have here is a statement that says, I want to run PostgreSQL container, and here's the Docker image. Now, I had a wonderful question. I haven't tried this myself, but I think this should work perfectly fine. And that was, what if I create a bunch of containers, each with its own set of fake data, but this fake data has like certain errors or certain problems with it, that I want to run a bunch of test conditions against that to see if it works. And my suggestion was, you do whatever you want, because you can create a Docker file that is from Postgres 14.5, load up whatever data that it is that you want, and make a container out of that. So you can put in whatever you want, which means you could also put in your custom images in here as well. As long as it is a PostgreSQL in the end, you can put whatever kind of image that you want against that. And that's what, in this case, I'm just using a raw PostgreSQL database. So here's the setup here. This is just the driver, the JDBC driver for it. But what gets started here is this variable here, which is going to be a variable that represents the container that has just been deployed or running. So what I'm going to do here is grab that container and ask it, what's your URL? What's the username I should use? What's the password that I should use? And set the database name here. Now, what I ended up doing is doing kind of like a tester in development, but against an actual database, okay? And started creating some code from that. So here's an example here where I'm testing an insert and find on my DAO here. I'm going to do a persist, and I'm going to do a find by student ID. Does this smell like a property? Right? For everything I insert, I should be able to get back out of a database, right? There's a property right there. Well, it just so happens JQwik has something called JQwik test containers that you could do this sort of thing, right? For every insert, you should be able to find that back. If I slam a bunch of data where I know the count of TEDs that I've inserted into this database, I should be able to get that count back. So using, both of these in conjunction, totally can bring that in. But anyway, here's this one right over here, where I'm just doing an insert and find on this one, and away we go. And what we'll see here is that this one's loading up Docker. I already had it cached, so that's why it runs fast here. But that's what that is. I just brought up a database. Oh, sorry. Ran against it and got whatever I need out of it. And there we go. Okay. Anybody use test containers now? Okay. Think about that one as well. And by the way, if you do Oracle, you're like, I'll never use this. That's not true. Like Oracle, I think was it 23? There's free Docker containers for that. So you can, if you have those kind of like big databases and you want to test your Oracle against, or want to test against an Oracle database, most certainly could do so. As long as it's containerized, you could use it. Yeah.
What kind of performance are you getting when you try to load a big old Oracle database with 500 tables and 10 million?
I think the answer is how do you set it up? Most definitely.
This could be a real heavy lift
Could be a heavy lift.
for your container.
And I think if you're going to make heavy use of it, you're probably on your CI/CD or your CI, you're probably going to have to do a lot of parallelization. You could also categorize tests into suites as well. So maybe one could have like one container brought up where you run a series, so that way you just bring up one container. And then the other calculation on that, it depends, is do you have that database cached already in your Docker? So I think that initial one is likely, it's definitely going to be high until you get that image down onto your machine. And then once you have that image, then at least that part's going to run faster. But
Maybe you could set up something with a remote system.
Oh yeah, great. Thanks. You know what? I'll pay you the $20 here in a bit. Thanks for that excellent question. So
Great, yeah, I'd like to see it.
there we go. So one thing in here is as a service, there is a test containers cloud where they have everything cached and ready to go. Now,
Okay.
this is the one where you pay for something that is running on a cloud, but that's what that service is. So that way you run it on someone else's computer, but things are cached and primed and ready to go for
That
you.
way, yeah, so then
Let them handle
whole.
the tiers and you just reap the rewards. Yeah. Mhm. Yep. That's one thing. Yeah, please. Ted.
It's not a question, more of a comment, really. We were having trouble reading a object from the field, or running a query from the field with fixed parameters. It always failed, didn't return any records, but we saw the SQL was returning 100 records. So I went into the Toad, which allows you to run queries. And then I ran the query, got the output in production. And then I said, export it as select from duals. And then we stuck it into the code that returned the canned results with results were from production. And we never had to check production data into the system. And then we could debug it on the developer's workstation.
Okay, great. I think, except some companies would have like probably a problem of you going into the production and grabbing information, but depending on what that information is. But yeah, or make something that is somewhat close to what that production
We didn't
database.
know what the bug was.
Yeah.
What big data make up.
Right. That's true. Yeah. So if you're able to do that, then yeah, you can come up with some sensible data that you could use. Cool. All right. Beautiful. Excellent. So that's a little bit of test containers there. And again, just a reminder, there's a JQwik test containers. So if you want to do this, property-based testing, like I'm creating 5 inserts, I should be able to see those records again if I query it, right? Or something like that.
And for people who like to watch our YouTube channel, we had a presentation on just test containers.
Good.
You may want to go back and watch that YouTube.
Right. Yep. Absolutely. So one of the things I'm also fascinated with is creating a mock server, right? I have an endpoint. I just want some canned answers. Going to return that. There are a couple of them. Mock server is one of them. Mock server is, you can say, hey, if someone makes this get call here with these parameters, and these particular headers, then go ahead and return the following. So that way I could test making a connection to a server and getting something back. Supports Java and JavaScript. That's mock server. Let me just take a little side road here. I hope many of you are past JDK 8. I hope. Okay. I'm trying to listen for teardrops. Hold on. Right? Just like, no, man, I'm still an 8, man. I better not say a word, man. Everyone's gonna make fun of me, right? I know, but there's a lot of great things with. Let's see. I think I have this one somewhere here, like at the top. Yeah, like this right over here. I absolutely love these text blocks, like particularly for parsing. I just want to make this one known here. Like for parsing, you don't have to create a test that goes, you don't have to like deploy to your test environment and test that the connection is made and you're able to parse. I see that a lot. It is sometimes astonishing, but part of it is like, how do you parse this JSON? And like, if that's the thing you want to test, you could plug that into your code. And it's not even bad anymore in Java, because as of JDK 16, I think, we've had text blocks. And text blocks are like triple quote. And I could just drop the JSON in here and test that, parse that. You could just bring the data in here and just make that a part of your test code. Beautiful. Okay, so I just wanted to mention that as a little side here. Okay, so there's that. Oh, JDK 15 is where that is. The competitor for mock server, and a lot of people like this one, is WireMock. WireMock's another one where you could just specify, hey, I'm going to make a GET request here. If this GET request is made, given these particular headers, and I'm going to return this. Okay, and that's what a WireMock would do. But also, oh gosh, I got to say this. One of my other favorite things as of late is, I don't know if I could find it, and I probably can't because I forgot where I had used that. But one of them that I really got a kick out of is, let's see, is it this one? Let me see if I can bring this one. Yeah, there it is. I made this one just recently. So I like WireMock and I like mock server, but it's very static, which is, I want to, make a GET call and I'm going to return some sort of payload. What I wanted was, I wanted something where I could program it myself, where I can have a success rate. So 60% of calls are going to be successful, 40% are going to be, or 30% are going to be failures, and 10 of them are going to be latent. WireMock and mock server didn't have, what I needed for that. But then I realized one of the cool things, and I just thought I'd bring this one up, and I'm going to make this a part of my talk here, which is there is something called simple web server in Java. He's heard of it, but have any of you heard of this? Simple web server, I think, is the thing that's not going to get attention, that is just going to be amazing for a particular problem area. And that is, I just want to create a simple web server. Really, that's it. And so here it is. So what I have here is success rate, latency rate, and failure rate. And I just want to create a Docker container that's going to have a web server that is everything that I need. Because after a while, these WireMock and mock servers are only going to be like, hey, give me a GET and I'll send this. Nice for what it is, but when things get hard, what is it that you're going to do? Well, this isn't too bad. Here it is, HTTP server create 8000. If I have this at service and at config here, those are paths where you could just plug in a handler, and here's the handler right over here. So all I wanted here was either return a 200, return a 500 with some payload, or return something that's going to do a latency in here. So if you need fake servers like this, go ahead and create one using the simple web server. And if you want to use it in test containers, make it a Docker container, and then bring that into your test. Boom. Okay. So I think that's cool as well. Very awesome. Yeah.
You need to even bother with the Docker container. I mean, it's if you're testing Java against Java.
Oh, sure. Yeah, there it is. Yeah. True. But if you want to test that like as an external service and you just want to test that part, however you want to do it. Yeah. But yeah, you have lots of choices. Yeah. If you're testing Java against Java, so yeah. Load up that Java, you have it as a port, just hit against it. Yep, absolutely. Let's take a look at mock server. And again, for like the simple stuff, mock server, wire mock, all those are, absolutely great for you to use. So let's see over here, mock server, there it is. So here's an example from this. Right, here it is in my test. Right, I'm not testing the parsing or anything like that. I'm just testing the behavior. This says here, if someone makes a post under this login with this particular body, then I'm just going to respond with 302. I'm going to provide a cookie here, and the return is just going to have this header. Boom, there it is, right? That's all I'm stating here. And then right over here, I'm just making that request outward, okay? This one I'm using HTTP client from JDK11, and I'm just hitting that endpoint. I'm hitting it with that body in here and just asserting that everything comes back as is, okay? So if you want to make that available, a little bit of a soapbox thing here. I know a lot of people like Postman. To me, and maybe you could correct me for those that do a lot with Postman, but to me, that's an external service. So if you want to internalize a lot of these tests rather than use an external service for that, I think this would be a great way to go about it. It's committed. Again, you can do checks on that. You have a source, all version controlled, that you can run your tests against, and it's all written in Java. Okay, so kind of cool. All right. So RESTful testing with Rest Assured. This has been out for a while, but I just thought I'd mention this one just in case. restassured.io. Again, part of the, I do love Postman, but what if you bring this in as Java, as native code? Again, you could verify that it's part of your source, things like that. Okay, so you can do much of anything with API testing in different ways: regression, reliability, monitoring, however you like. The only thing you would need, bring in Rest Assured, bring that in Gradle or Maven, however you would like. There's an extra library called JSON Path, which allows you to make assertions given that you get a JSON in return. Then you could just use JSON Path navigation to determine if the payload is exactly what you want. And you can bring that in as Gradle as well. Let's take a look at Rest Assured. So here's Rest Assured. Perhaps for you, the Java programmers, but if you want to let the testers in your company know about this, if they don't as well, I think it's great. So here's the data that I was just showing you for JSON. Okay, and I'm using mock server as well, so I'm using a combination of both. So this one is mock server. When a request is made of a get with this particular path, exactly 2 times, I'm going to respond with a 200 with this header and with this content type, JSON UTF-8, with the body, which is that data that I was just showing you earlier. Here is Rest Assured. I think it looks great, right? It's very linguistic in that I have a when. I call this get here with this particular ID that I can interpolate. Then I should expect a status code of 200. And this is where that JSON path comes in. And here's my assertion. I expect Lotto and Lotto ID to be equal to 5. And Lotto winner's winner ID should have the items 23 and 54. That's what that JSON path does. I think it's really nice. So if you want to test your APIs that way, you can do so. It doesn't necessarily have to be this kind of test. You could actually run, create an integration test kind of jar that would test your staging environment and create something runnable. So in your CI/CD, what is it? Generally, build whatever you need, deploy that into staging. But once you're in staging, go ahead and run your integration testing that could run these Rest Assured calls just to make sure that all your APIs are going to work. Okay. So I think it's great, and that's what rest assured is. And then my final one here is asynchronous testing with Awaitility. Okay. Woo, where all these come from? Tough to track down. So Awaitility is just something that helps you out with waiting. And it will handle that. It's just an API that will do that. So a domain-specific language that allows you to express your expectations. Perfect tool for handling threads, timeouts, concurrency issues, things like that. In the back end of this, it will do polling until a particular effect is completed. And everything is programmable as to how often it does that. So the idea here is for everything that you start, you want to wait for something to become available at most 4 seconds, or at least 12 seconds, or until a certain condition is met. And once you have that condition, then you could just verify that. Let's say I want to do a post onto some service, but for me to get the get call afterwards, it's going to take like 5 seconds before I could retrieve the record, right? And so that's what this would be, right? And so you could just say, keep hitting this get at this tempo until I get it. And if I do get it, then I'll go to make that assertion that this has passed, right? That's the waiting that we're talking about here, okay? So very beginning, there has to be an end somewhere, hopefully along the way. And for every asynchronous process that begins, there should be an end. So again, what are some examples where you want to observe something of an effect that you just made, like storing something onto a RESTful call, or storing something into a database, or something that is eventually consistent, like maybe a Kafka that you just want to test afterwards and know that that one's there. Or maybe you're doing some processing along the way. So these are a lot of things that you want to test that condition. So bring that in a Maven install or a Gradle install, easy as that. Various DSLs for your favorite JVM language if it isn't Java. Let's go and take a look at Awaitility here. So here it is. Let's take a look at Awaitility. I have some simple tests here. Now this, by the way, uses Hamcrest. Anyone big fans of Hamcrest? Okay. I like Hamcrest a lot. Here's an example of Hamcrest right over here. Equal to. I definitely like AssertJ. Here's AssertJ. So I actually have the two of them here. I like that one. I love AssertJ because if I do like a control space right over here, the only help that I get here are things that have to do with the type that's inside of that assert that, and that's why I like that. But the benefit of like a Hamcrest, here it is that it's flexible. So I could say equal to any int as a wildcard. And so that's what that would do for us. But anyway, I have varying examples here. One is just testing a regular future. I mean, sometimes blocking is the best way, and you don't need to use anything like Awaitility. If you know that something is blocking and you're in a test, and here's a little key thing here, right? Sometimes we hear about blocking and just like, no, we can never use blocking. Blocking is horrible. But you can use blocking to your advantage when it comes to a test, because you have to wait for that answer anyway, right? So why not wait there for that answer to complete, and then you could just go in and do that. So sometimes you don't even need to use that Awaitility. But if you want to, you could do this. I want to wait until this is available. These two are the same thing, but this one's just using Awaitility. I want to wait until there's something here, and then I'm going to make sure that that's going to be equal to 30. Okay. Let's see. I think these two are the same. Yep, I think so. What's up with that one? But I want to wait until some condition is met, and here is a lambda for that. Okay. Or I want to wait until this condition is met. Here's this one here. Let's say I don't want to use Hamcrest. I still want to use my AssertJ, which is assert that. I want to wait until this is asserted, and I get to define what language it is that I want to use here. Okay, so I could do that. Here's this one in here. poll delay. So here are just the different APIs here. This one is, remember, there's a poll in the background. Are you ready? 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 Until I'm able to get the information here. So I poll intervals, I have timeouts, I could handle exceptions, I could ignore exceptions. You see a lot of different things that we can have here. But let me go down to this one over here. So you have a lot of flexibility of the things that you could do. And here's this one over here, which is just to show you how the polling works behind the scenes. What I have here is I have a service, I have my student ID here, and I'm going to call add a student to this. And I want to wait here until the student is stored. And how do I do that? I'm going to wait until if I call get student, that's present, right? This is that mysterious curtain where I'm inserting something. It's taking some time and I'm polling, is there something, is there something, is there something, is there something, is there something? And whenever there's that something is there, then I want to make sure that that is equal to true. So what I'm doing here is I'm going to be, kind of like debugging how often that gets polled. And remember, you could tune this. So you could poll every second, every 2 seconds, every 300 milliseconds, however it is you want. But these are the number of calls that are just being made. Again, this is not something that you can't do. It's just helpful there whenever you need it. That's all it is. Okay, just something that will just ping, 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 until you get the answer that you need. Okay, and that would be Awaitility. All right. Anyway, oh, by the way, this beanie here, a little funny story. O'Reilly asked me to help review their Headfirst Python book, which is an excellent book. I know this is a Java user group, but I really enjoyed that book. And they said, hey, can you send us a headshot? I don't even wear beanies, but I had this one on. Anyway, I totally forgot that's a Java beanie, inverted. I sent that to them, and they probably think I'm still a massive troll on this one, because they were like, "This is a Python book," and I gave them this headshot over here with a Java all across there. Anyway, but yeah, there's my contact info here. But which one seemed more intriguing to you, just out of curiosity? I think test containers you already knew about that JQwik, property-based testing. Cool. Yeah. It'd be cool. And then the other one, what was the mutation testing? Yeah, see how that one works out for you. All right, cool. Well, thank you very much, everyone, and hope you appreciate it. And thanks again.
Well, that was a great presentation. So are there any questions here for Daniel here before we end the recording?
Yeah, you could go ahead and end the recording. Robert had asked about AI. I was just going to show a little bit of AI on IntelliJ, but that'll be like an overtime thing.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you very much. Here we're going to end the recording here. Ted, you want to hit that button?